When a parent falls in their home, it changes their life and it changes yours. I'm sure everyone has a story that they can probably tell, whether it's about Miss Mary at church. You hadn't seen her there in a couple of weeks, and you just found out she's in the hospital in rehab because she fell in her home. And what about Mr. Tom down the street? Look, he already had back problems, but he was determined to keep living by himself and not be a burden to his children, but he fell. He tripped over something in the house, and now he's in such excruciating pain that he now has to have his family there around the clock. They're struggling, trying to balance working and knowing who's going to cover what day and who's staying overnight so he can be safe and taken care of. But it has totally disrupted the flow of that entire family. But the good news is falls do not have to happen. Many falls can be prevented, and I'm here because I want to talk about that. Hi, I'm Consuela. I am an occupational therapist, and I have been a therapist for 30 years, working with patients who require my services after a fall. I've gone into hundreds of homes, and I've heard the stories. I've seen the despair on many of the faces by family members who just didn't know what to do and how they were going to pull the pieces back together while they are attending to the needs of a loved one who is no longer able to remain living by themselves. Look, I know there is so much that can be done to lower those fall risks that can keep someone living safer and more independent in their home, and also prevents that sudden need for a son or a daughter to instantly become a caregiver. And now they're juggling their lives and caring for someone that they love. And that's why I founded the Finding a Foothold podcast, to be that resource for families who have concerns or don't even know that they need to be having concerns right now about what are some things I can do that can keep themselves safe as they're aging, and doing what it takes, working with their parents on making sure that their parents are safe at home and that the home is set up to accommodate for the parents' needs and able to take care of themselves as much as possible. So look, on this podcast, it's all about empowering you with information. I'm going to be sharing with you tons of stories of real life people just living their lives. They get up in the morning with plans for the day that did not include having a fall. But that fall occurred maybe due to something that needs to be modified in the house to allow for them to be safer. Or maybe it needs to be taking a look at how they're doing particular things. What type of risky behaviors do they have that's making them prone to fall? Look, we're going to talk about all of that and multiple solutions that you can choose from that can help lower the fall risk. So what do I need from you? I need you to tune in. So look, the podcast isn't new. The Finding a Foothold podcast has several episodes where the podcast was strictly addressing supporting caregivers. And look, those are some valuable resources for you who are caregivers. But I broadened the scope of what is now going to be presented on the podcast because I see that falls are one of the leading causes of people suddenly becoming caregivers. I felt the need to start now addressing fall prevention, or what we may call also aging in place. Look, falls are happening. Statistics show that 1 out of 4 individuals over 65 fall every year. And another statistic is every 11 seconds, someone arrives at the ER due to injuries sustained from a fall. So look, if you're aging and you want to continue aging safely, you want to continue to be able to meet up with friends, go out to dinner, live in your home. Look, it doesn't naturally just happen because you want it to happen. You have to plan not to fall. You've got to know what are some things you can do in your home. What are some ways you need to tweak how you do things so that you stay safe. And if you're a son or a daughter of an older parent and you see that they are starting to slow down and maybe they've had a fall or you have concerns about them having a fall, this podcast is for you to really move beyond just worrying about them to like knowing some concrete things that you can do and ways that you can partner with them and getting the conversation started with them on how to be as safe as they can in their home, where they feel that connection with it. You all are on the same page. If you have a need for this information or know someone who needs this information, please subscribe and share this podcast. Look, I'm going to share one tip today, a real life story. Miss Patsy just retired. Well, retired maybe about 3 or 4 years ago. And she knows she's not as active as she used to be. She likes to sit around and look at a lot of TV. She was expecting a package at the door. So she got a notification on her phone that a package she's been waiting for will be delivered in about 5 minutes. And she wanted to be at the door to greet the FedEx person when they got there because they have like a real friendly relationship and he always has a little treat for her dog. Well, look, Miss Patsy decided she was going to rush to the bathroom, take care of her business, and be ready when the FedEx person arrived. Well, in her haste to get to the bathroom, she really wasn't paying attention to what she was doing. And one of her doll's cute little toys was on the floor. She stepped on the toy and she fell and she couldn't get up. She knew instantly that something was wrong. Well, the package was delivered. And thankfully, the FedEx guy heard her and was able to call and get help. And that fall happened in an instant. So my tip for today, something that you can think about, and that tip is simple. Slow down. Nothing is worth rushing so fast that you become careless and it leads to a fall. Take your time. Watch your step. Oh, look, there's other things in this little story that I can add some other safety tips about, but the main thing is slowing down. Take your time. It doesn't cost you a thing. Many fall prevention strategies really don't cost a lot. And this is a free one. So look, that's it for today for Finding a Foothold podcast. Check out the website and I'll talk a lot more about other things that we offer. And I'm excited about getting the podcast kicked off again. It's not a new podcast. We are now relaunching the podcast with a continued emphasis on caregiver safety and supporting caregivers, but now with this added addition, fall prevention that is so needed in our world today. Thank you so much and see you next time.